How's it going, guys? It's Nutshell here, and today I want to talk about the plans for Escape from Tarkov for the rest of the year that we have available, specifically focused around the PVE mode and what you can expect in the upcoming updates to the game, so that we're all in the loop, and of course we can have a bit of a discussion about whether or not some of these changes are the best ones for BSG to be focusing on as the updates. And of course, with the release of 1.0 this year, 2025, release of the full version of Escape from Tarkov. So without further ado, obviously we have recently had the patch, which is 0.16.6, which has seen lighthouse optimizations. We've seen some AI behavior. We've seen the introduction of the brand new rocket launcher as well. Some changes to how the AI react with regards to headshots and stuff like that. Some changes to how the AI will react on different maps and stuff like this. So if you haven't seen the full breakdown of course, this update, then I would highly recommend checking out the previous update video that we did do a couple days ago. So you can go and check that one out if you want to. But in all honesty, there is one more thing that we are likely to see during May. So of course, with it being the 1st of May today, we are probably going to see the introduction of a new in-game event coming relatively soon. Obviously, we had recently the introduction of the Labyrinth into Escape from Tarkov, both the PvE and PvP mode. So we are likely to see an actual in-game event coming out again. So it's a really good cadence, I think, in terms of the events. We've had about a week or so of not having an event, and then we're going to be popping into another one within probably the next 1 to 2 weeks. I would expect maybe a mid-May event that we're going to see enter into the game, whether that will be a kind of wipe event or whether Escape from Tarkov and BSG are going to potentially wait to kind of wipe the game at 1.0 release. Not entirely sure just yet, or whether they'll plan to have a wipe in between now and when the 1.0 release is going to come out sometime later in the year. Whether that is going to be September 2025, November, October, December, whether it will be right at the end of the year, we're not entirely sure just yet. But in terms of the events that are going to be coming out, we don't know any details just yet, but I would expect that they will be maybe a boss event. It's usually around this sort of time that they start introducing the 100% boss event, where they all spawn on a singular map. And that would be really, really nice to see. Obviously, it's been a while since we've had a true boss event where all of the bosses spawn on, for example, the health resort, or maybe they spawn on a different map this time. With all of the changes that they've done to some of the maps, maybe they'll kind of switch it up and have them all on Lighthouse or something. It would be interesting to see, like in the actual rogue camp. That would be really, really cool to see that. But in terms of future updates as well, so past that event and May, we then have the update news for June, which is going to see some optimizations for reserve. So from what I can gather as it currently stands, that BSG are just trying to optimize all of the different maps, trying to get all of the maps ready, trying to knit out all of those small bugs or visual issues or just simply performance issues that all of these maps have had in the past, making them ready to go when 1.0 releases. So obviously we've had Lighthouse, we've had customs changes, we've had updates to some of the other maps as well. Things like Labs has had some additions, and of course the next one being Reserve. They're going to have some fixes to a wide variety of bugs that are existing within the game, probably very minor bugs, the sort of thing that is like a piece of debris is clipping into a wall or something like that. And then they're going to be tuning AI behavior even more. So typically, from what I've seen, the AI behavior is constantly getting improved over time, where they're trying to find out exactly where that right kind of balance is actually within the game. And so, yeah, the AI behavior getting tuned, getting worked out. Obviously, we've had the recent thing whereby, when the AI actually power slide, they can no longer just instant one tap you in the head and stuff like that, which is always good. It didn't tend to happen that much for me personally, but I know that obviously that is very unlikely. You as a player probably would never be able to do that, and so having the AI avoiding that is always good. And so it's those kind of small things, making sure that the AI aren't too overpowered or simply just annoying or broken that a player could not possibly do, I think is really, really good. Balancing changes and improvements. So I would assume things, maybe they're going to look at some of the different weapons and optimizing those to be more balanced, spread across the board to give more diversity in what you can use. Although I think Escape from Tarkov, out of all of the different kind of first-person shooters, and especially when it comes to extraction shooters, is actually probably one of the more balanced ones. You can use pretty much any weapon and still be very, very, it's like usable. Every weapon is usable. You don't feel absolutely at a terrible disadvantage, unless of course you're running like the lowest tier ammunition or simply running guns that do not have decent penetration and trying to do things like taking out Tagilla with like terrible ammunition, trying to shoot him through the head, etc., which is never going to work. But you know, you can make it work either way. There's going to be the summer weather season coming in June as well. So this is going to be, of course, we've had the autumn, we've had the winter, and of course, if you don't already know, for PvE is that they were looking at trying to implement a system where you could pick the weather season. Maybe you want to choose winter, maybe you want to have a bit more diversity in your raids and being able to choose which weather season you want when you jump into your raid. So maybe we'll see that when the 1.0 release actually comes out. And then, of course, there's audio engine improvements, which is like basically what they say every single time, yet we still have tons of audio issues when we're inside of buildings, being able to hear the rain outside even though you're inside, and it sounds absolutely way too loud. But of course, that is just an ongoing thing, trying to make sure that that is less of an effect, I guess, less of an impact on people's play when they do jump into the game. There's also obstacle processing algorithm improvements for better audio occlusion performance. So what I would assume is that if there's obstacles in the way between where shots are fired, you would then hear a different level of sound dependent on what obstacles are around you. So almost think of it like the sound is a wave coming out from wherever the source is, whether it's a grenade, whether it's a weapon going off, and the wave will kind of go out in a radius, and if there's an obstacle in between you and the wave, then it will kind of dampen that wave so that you don't hear it as much. That's what I would assume would be what they're going on about here. Now, I could be completely wrong, but if you guys know exactly what that is, if you are more kind of in-depth with regards to game sound engines and that sort of stuff, that would be interesting to see your thoughts and tell me exactly what that may mean. But that's what I get the gist of with that. Now, Tarkov.community, obviously, it was released a couple months back. Tarkov.community, for those of you that do not already know, if you've been away from the game, maybe you've taken a little bit of a break, is, of course, the website where you can submit your own suggestions to BSG, and they will look to try and implement those changes to make the game better. If they think it's a worthwhile kind of thing, of course, lots of people have already submitted things which were just painful within the game for players. So like quality of life updates. We're talking, you know, being now able to add in flares into your special slot, being able to put paracords into your special slot so it doesn't take up the space in your rig or in your backside. And so it becomes like more useful updates that come into the game. We've recently had the addition that you can now purchase all items from the crafting menu when you go into your hideout. So say you want to do a craft, you can purchase all items rather than having to go onto each individual item and purchase it and then come back to the craft, find the next item, go ahead and purchase it. Now it will just give you the list of everything, similar to what you see with the preset system where you set up your weapon or whatever and then you go ahead and buy all. It's the same thing for the crafting now. So you can do that. It's a little box that you can go to in your hideout, click on it, just below the wish list, I believe, on the left hand side when you go to any craft within your hideout, and you can actually purchase all of the items required for that craft. Makes it super simple to see the price of actually the inputs versus the outputs, so you can determine whether or not it's even worth doing, and seeing what you can make some money on if you wanted to do the crafting for profit. or you know, doing it in the most cost efficient way to level up your crafting skill for your hideout and hideout management skill as well. Now, Tarkov community, we kind of talked about what it actually is, but there is going to be a couple of things. So auto purchases of missing currency when buying items. So this will be essentially what I would see would be buying the dollars or whatever to be able to purchase the items when you go ahead and you know, do a barter or what have you. Task sorting improvement, so you'll be able to sort out your tasks. Maybe you're going to favorite a couple of tasks that you want. Maybe that is what they're talking about here, being able to select the tasks that you actually want to complete, and that way you can see the ones that you've kind of highlighted. Maybe you're going for Kappa, and so you can pinpoint the exact tasks you need to do as a player, rather than seeing the entire list of tasks and having to pinpoint them out, remember them in your head, get yourself a notepad or an Excel spreadsheet with all of them in, and that way you can just pin the ones that you want only once, rather than having to keep remembering or going back to your own source of information, which I think is good. And then warning before starting a raid with a task item in the inventory, stash auto sort improvements. I would personally like to see the ability to, you know, auto sort or drag and drop all loot into one container at one singular time. So for example, all barter items can be essentially put into one box in your hideout, so that you can spend less time in your hideout or in your stash and back into the raid as quickly as possible. So you can kind of just one button click and it will move all of those items that are barter items into a place. But I don't know how exactly that would work in the game, because maybe some of those items you want to take into the raid, it would be a bit finicky, but you know, the idea that they're going to be trying to improve the sorting system would be nice for the stash. Reduce flashlight glare when wearing glasses. I saw this on the Tarkov community website, where someone was saying that the glasses are essentially used for flashbangs, but no one really uses flashbangs in the game, and so they were saying that when you use like glasses, that they would actually block out some of the flashlight glare, to make more of a use of wearing glasses within the game. I think that was a good suggestion. I don't see any issue with doing that, provided that it doesn't give you like you don't see any light from a flashlight. I think that would be really, really nice. Highlighted attachments available from traders when building a weapon as well. So that is also an addition that they're looking to do. I'm sure that during this time period between now and when June update actually comes out, which is patch 0.16.7, we've just recently had 0.16.6. I believe that there will probably be some additional updates that will come out. Maybe they've seen more stuff and been able to push through some of the updates. This is just like a preliminary plan of updates that Escape from Tarkov are going to see this year. So of course anything could change on here. They can move around some of these things so that you actually see updates from the further patch in July coming into June, and some of the updates from June going to July or August or whatever. So it's all very kind of preliminary, so nothing is set in stone. And then from June to the July update, which will be patch 0.16.8, they are going to be doing some shoreline optimization alongside ground zero. So obviously, as I said, they've been doing a lot of optimization on all of the different maps so far, and so shoreline and ground zero will be the focus of patch 0.16.8. And in July, they are also going to have an in-game event that will be added into the game. There will also be third-person gunshot sounds rework, so I don't know how that will actually work, but yes, I mean, that will be a thing. Cumulative fixes as well, and yeah, not a huge amount of stuff actually kind of given to us as to what exactly they will be doing, but the in-game event sounds pretty darn good. And then, of course, there'll be a load of quality of life changes from the Tarkov community feedback that they've been given. So they're saying, like, we are going to do some Tarkov community updates that are posted on there, and those will be the feature of kind of the quality of life updates and balancing that they'll do in the future, because, of course, they're going to work through the ones that they currently have, and I'm sure suggestions will be added on there for people to actually suggest themselves. So if you want to actually suggest changes that you think would be beneficial, that are useful, BSG are actually taking these suggestions, they are actually implementing them. So I'd highly recommend going and checking those out yourself and adding your own suggestions, because they could potentially come into the game. And then in August 2025, interchange optimization and an expansion to interchange will be coming, which is actually pretty big. I mean, interchange itself is a big map and has a ton of areas that you can go into. But in terms of the actual expansion, we do not know currently, or at least I've not seen anything as to exactly what they're hoping to do with interchange itself. But of course, we'll cover that in future videos when that does come out, when the information is a bit more explicit into what they're going to be doing. So stay tuned on the channel if you want to, by subscribing down below, with the shameless plug out of the way. Of course, there is also going to be some fixes, and then there will be a large scale in-game event, which I believe would probably be the kind of, I guess, the final event before the release of 1.0. So I think that this is going to be the biggest event Tarkov has ever seen in its history, because this will be the defining last event before they release the game in its entirety as Tarkov version 1.0. It becomes no longer a beta. So yeah, I think it's going to be amazing to see what this event is going to be. I think it will probably be the biggest event that they have ever done, and will probably include a ton of storylines to finish up the campaign, or at least the quest lines that we've already got in the game. They've said that they're going to be adding in more quest lines as time goes on during all of these updates. So of course, the release of Terminal will be coming during this period of time when the release actually goes live. There's a couple of things we'll kind of go over as well, because I want to be very clear, following a video that we've done recently with regards to PVE having to wipe and that sort of stuff, is that there will be the release of Terminal at some point during this year, which is very, very big. It's one of the biggest kind of releases, I think, that we're going to see, and I'm excited to see how it evolves, what the game is going to actually end up being when they do release 1.0. So when we're talking about Terminal, the release of 1.0, there's not a huge amount of information out there as to the exact specifics of what is going to be the finished product of Escape from Tarkov. But there has been, you know, conversations with Nikita on Tarkov TV and stuff like that. And the main thing would be that they are going to be starting to introduce new quest lines, and for PvE specifically, we're going to be having to re-wipe our accounts back to a reset if we want to obtain all of the quest lines, all of the content that the release of Tarkov will have. So at 1.0 release, we're going to have to reset our accounts back to 0 and start from the beginning again, with no rewards, no prestige or anything like that, which is, for me personally, I don't really care. I mean, I think it would be interesting to start again, of course, but I think for some people, it's obviously going to be a bone of contention. My previous video, people was like, came across like I was trying to whinge or something about it, which wasn't the intention. I think that it's just a strange way of doing it, and I understand that maybe the pre 1.0 release might be a completely different game to the post 1.0 release, and so maybe it would just be a factor of they can't guarantee all of these things are going to work entirely. Maybe there's some conflicts that may happen, which is why they're wanting people to reset their accounts. It is not a forced wipe, so you can choose to remain your account as it currently stands on PvE, but you can have the ability to wipe your account and access all content and everything with the release of 1.0. So that is what Nikita has said. He has also stated that there will be no prestige system for PvE, which, as I said in the previous video, was a bit of a... I wouldn't say it's necessarily a slap in the face, but I do think that there has to be some form of long-term thing for PvE, whether that be a prestige system or some value to wiping your account or getting rid of it, not for the sake of, you know, trying to force people to wipe, but to give players who do play a lot of PvE, or to give people a outlet to try and focus on once they've done the base storyline of the game. Now, obviously, once again, I want to caveat it with, we don't know how the full release, maybe there's going to be constant endgame content that people will do, so there is no need to wipe your account. But at the same time, I think it would be great to still have that prestige system or a variant of it to allow players to go for that long-term progression, to have that symbolization that they have gone through many different kind of task lines and then redone it again and again and again. I don't see why you wouldn't implement a prestige system for PvE. It just seems a bit strange that they wouldn't just implement it anyway, whether people do take up that offer or whether they don't. I think that would be a good system, because at the end of the day, it's just a choice for the player. You don't have to, and I'm not saying that everyone should have to wipe their accounts. I want to make that explicitly clear, because people love to say and take statements before they've actually listened to anything. I want to be super clear. I don't want people to be forced into wiping their accounts, but I think the option should be there for people who want to, and I don't think that there's any reason why you wouldn't do that. It also helps the economy, because not only are these players who have grinded out the game, who have probably got way too many rubles, they're going to have to go and reset back to 0 and then buy all of the stuff from the players who are more casual to re-go through everything. And yeah, I think it will remove those rubles and inflation on PvE, which has definitely become an issue over time, whereby as soon as an in-game event drops, for example, like the recent one that we've had, or the in-game quest lines that we've had recently, whereby items that are commonly like 50k sell for like 3 to 6 million rubles, because so many people have 1 billion rubles or 2 billion or 5 billion rubles on the game, and so they don't care about spending 12 million, which means the average player is nowhere near that level to be able to spend, you know, 6 million rubles 5 times over to complete a quest line, and so it kind of locks them out of the latest content. They can't do it because it's so overpriced, and inflation has allowed that to happen. So yeah, prestige system or some form of removal of those rubles, or an outlet to remove those rubles as a constant thing that people can put money into, that is rewarding for the player, but removes those rubles to stop that inflation, I think is important. Because without having an if you do not sort out an economy, the game becomes dead. Everyone doesn't pick up any loot in the game unless it's the highest tier loot that sells for like 2 million rubles. Otherwise, there's no point in picking up something that is worth 20k. It's not worth your time. And so, yeah, for an extraction shooter, it's really important that things do have value. And yeah, not having a wipe definitely impacts that, which I think they're going to have to solve in some regard later on down the line. But maybe they've already thought about that for the release of 1.0. I do not know. We do not know. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think that it's important that they do have some system like that in the game. But with that being said, that is kind of everything for the release this year that we currently know. Obviously, there's a few more bits and bobs that were released in the Tarkov TV with regards to some new weapons that will be coming into the game as well, prior to the release, with the AK-50 and some other weapons as well that we'll see enter into the game likely before the release of 1.0. But yeah, primarily big updates. That's what we're going to see. Lots of in-game events, pretty much one every single month except from June. So yeah, really excited to see what Tarkov has, and I think it could potentially rejuvenate the entire Tarkov player base when the 1.0 release comes out. So stay tuned for all of the information if you aren't currently playing, and maybe give yourself a bit of a go or a relax until the release of some of these big updates and in-game events that you want to take part in. But with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like it. And if you want to see what was released recently with the latest update, then be sure to check out this video on screen. And I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.